All right. YouTube Repo Man 64. So I was called demonic, devil worshiping, and going straight to hell for making two statements. And I clarified one of them yesterday about go to a quiet place by yourself. And I showed you in Matthew 6, 5, and 6 that that is actually in the Bible. And when you go, this is a private moment between you and your creator. After that, yeah, I mean, you're once you receive the Holy Spirit, you're supposed to share it and tell others. That's the point of the talons that God gave three different people, and one of them he got it, he hid it, and then he actually wasn't saved because God took it from him and gave it to the one that had 10. So and the other one was this word Chodesh. And I want to go through this word with you and show you that it only means month. It never means moon, ever. And it's really simple. A little bit about me before I get started. Um, as a child, um, I was 6 or 7 years old. My brother said, I told him I can count to a million. He says, no, you can't. It's impossible. Nobody can count to a million. So my father finds me in my bed at 3 o'clock in the morning writing it down because I knew that if I just in my head did it, my brother wouldn't believe me. And for some reason, this was important to me to prove it. And my dad, very caringly, and for the most part, they didn't understand me. They didn't understand how my brain functioned. So I had made it up to like 90,000. And he's like, and it was a school day the next day. It was 3 a.m. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And I says, "My brother said I can't count to a million, so I'm going to show him that I can." He's like, "You can." He's wrong. You can. But why do you care what he thinks? And my dad taught me a really important lesson that day. And so things like that in my entire life have been going on. And when you're born in 64, and it's the early 70s. Nobody can diagnose these things. It took a long time for me to, and honestly, people around me to understand me and how my mind worked. All that being said, when I say Chodesh means month, it does not mean moon. I don't say it lightly. It was a serious study that I did, and I studied very diligently. I married a really good woman who knows that, for example, I'm sitting outside of the pharmacy. There's a huge line because everybody is trying to get their prescriptions filled before this hurricane hits. And I can see bands going overhead right now. It's not too windy, but it's rainy heavy for a second. Then it's not typical bands of a hurricane going through. So I'm sitting out here waiting, and I tell my wife, I'm going to make a video. She's like, okay. My wife's amazing. She knows that this is near and dear to my heart. That first and foremost is that when somebody sees this video, that they give their life to Christ. That's the only important thing. That is the only salvational issue in anything. You don't have to know a calendar. You don't have to know timelines. I built them. I've been building them for so long. My wife's just like building another timeline. She's just used to it, and that's just what I do. So she's just an awesome woman that understands. So she's like, "You gonna make a video? Okay." I said, "I'm gonna sit out in the parking lot, which is what I'm doing, and I have to wait 30 minutes. So I need to keep this video around 30 minutes long because I have to get her medication. She can't go through this hurricane without it, and so." Um, Here I sit, and I'm going to explain to you as best I can what happens to me as I'm explaining. I come under the assumption that other people can understand where my mind is taking things, and that's a mistake I have. And I need to slow down perhaps and clarify a little bit better as to the research that I've done. And if you just Google, like literally, I don't like Google at all. But it's amazing if you just go in and just Google it. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Google will tell you it's Matthew 6, 5, and 6. All you have to do is Google it. Uh, telling somebody they're demonic because they say that, that's insane. And then to wash it off like, oh, well, I said that, no big deal. I don't need to apologize. That's even worse. That's straight from Satan himself. I'm going to do the same thing with the word Chodesh right now. And I'm going to prove to you it is not demonic, but it is not a salvational issue to know this stuff. Anyone who tells you that everything is a salvational issue is a worker of their salvation. The only thing you need as you learn and become more intimate with your Creator, the only thing you need is Jesus. That's it. All this other stuff is stuff that when you get to heaven, you're gonna learn stuff. You're gonna know stuff, and that is becoming more intimate with your Creator, and that's awesome. Um, Bottom line, Jesus, the blood of Christ. That's it. That's all. Everything else, icing on the cake. Um, so the word Chodesh comes from the original books, the original Torah of the Bible, and the word Chodesh obviously is in there. Now, the Sadducees and Pharisees translated this word into Greek, and when they did, or into it was from the original Hebrew into Greek or into English, but when they did, they took liberties to say new moon. They were wrong. You know those guys, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, those guys that hung Jesus, those guys that didn't know that he came. Jesus was upset. So you can look at the sky and see that it's going to rain, but you can't tell the time of your visitation. You can't when you confuse the calendar. Satan did a number on them 400 years before Jesus came. He pulled this off 400 years to force them to look at this moon. The moon goes around the earth every 29 and a half days. It returns to exact position where you started from, 354 days each year. It falls 10 days too short. I showed you in that video how the earth actually only rotates to a distant star 364 times. But to correct our daytime, which has to be done. There's nothing wrong with it. To correct our daytime, the Earth has to move 4 more minutes to keep high noon, high noon. And so, hence the 365 and a quarter days each year. It's in my mind, it's very understandable. I hope if you have any questions about that, just ask me and I'll explain it. Like I said, Earth, distant star. Now, for people who think the Earth is flat, I can't contemplate that mathematically. For me, the Earth has to be round, but I'm not. Again, not a salvational issue. We don't need to fight over that uh, part at all. I have a good friend, and I don't want to name him, but he thinks the Earth is flat, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine because he doesn't tell me I'm going to hell if I don't believe that the Earth is flat, because that's ridiculous. Because he knows that there's only one salvational issue, and that is Jesus Christ, the Lord of your life. All right, let me get started on this, and I will quickly or try to articulate this quickly so I can show you what I'm talking about. Just keep in mind as we go forward from right now that this month started on September the 15th. This month is called the month of trumpets. The last day of this month of trumpets happens right here on October the 15th at sunset. It will be Tishri 30. It will become Heshvan 1 on October the 16th. The end of this month, and now also, I've told you this before, I have an extra day issue because of the 364 Essene calendar, Enoch calendar, and the 365 Gregorian or um, Julian calendar. Remember, I told you before that the Gregorian calendar is the Julian calendar corrected. They should have never changed the name. It should have stayed Julian, and they should have said we had to correct it by 10 days and then fix it, which is what they did. They fixed it. So, whatever dates you see here are the dates that Jesus, when he was on earth, was walking on the Julian calendar. It was an incorrect calendar, but it was not a moon calendar. This moon thing came about, I think, I don't know exactly where it came about. I know it came about 400 BC. I don't believe Jesus was on it. I do know why Jesus sat still when he found out his friend had died for 2 days. He knew that on December this, sorry, I said that wrong. He knew that on March the 16th, down here at the bottom right, when Lazarus died, he knew that March the 17th and March the 18th were the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is a 2 day feast. Trumpets down here is a 1 day feast. The reason they don't know the day or the hour of when trumpet starts is because they have to wait 10 days for the day of equal parts. Right here. The day of equal parts occurs on Yom Kippur, Tishri 10, September the 25th. You can go into time and date and see it. Now, on that day, the day that the sun is exactly equal on both sides, the day is 12 hours, the night is 12 hours. They know this. And then they say, okay, 10 days. That's why they cannot tell you specifically that Tishri 1 will land on September the 15th. We can now because we can calculate it easily. So when I say that on September the 25th, there are 12 hours in a day and 12 hours a day. On September the 26th, it gets a little bit shorter. But every year on that day, you could call a day by how many minutes are in it because it never changes. It never changes. March 16th and September the 25th at night will always be the day of equal parts. It doesn't budge. Just like God Himself, this calendar doesn't move around at the whims of a sliver moon or a full moon. Now, if you say that Tishri 1, this is the furthest out calendar that we have, I believe. I don't think there's one any further out. Tishri 1, if you say it is October the 17th, that's fine. Call it Tishri 1. I say that October the 17th is Heshvan 2. We're 30 days apart now. That would mean if you make that statement, the full moon, that is Tishri 1, it is October the 17th. That means Heshvan 1 is November the 17th. 1 month later on each, 1 month later on the Hebrew, 1 month later on the Gregorian. So Heshvan 1 is November 17th. Tishri 1 is October 17th. Then Heshvan 17, which is the date of the flood, must fall on December the 4th. But I promise you that every single person that views a calendar other than this one will abandon their calendar and say, oh no, the flood is on Halloween. Well, it can't be if you're going to count your days properly. The flood cannot be on Halloween. It has to be, according to your timeline, on December the 4th. That's the flood. We can continue to go forward. Kislev 1 is another month out. So we have October 17th, November 17th, December 17th. Kislev 1, December 17th. So Kislev 24, we all know, is Hanukkah. That's when Hanukkah starts. According to this timeline, using the full moon, Hanukkah starts on January 27th. That's crazy. We all know Hanukkah is in December. This year, the Jews will view December the 25th as Hanukkah, which is the same date, I believe, that Jesus is conceived. I believe Jesus was conceived on December the 25th in what it's 3 BC, but it's 4 BC because of the 0 year problem. So, December the 25th, also Hanukkah, you can go Google it. It's the same this year. It lines up, is Kislev 24, right? So I think the same thing happened when Jesus was conceived on December the 25th. Now, of course, if you count exactly 40 weeks after December the 25th, that makes Jesus' birthday fall on September 30th, which is Tabernacles. Jesus' birthday does not change at the whim of a sliver moon or a full moon every month. It stays constant. It never changes. He was always born the night of the 29th, becoming September the 30th. He was always circumcised on October and named on October the 7th, the day Israel was attacked. Now, the problem with trying to figure out the rapture date is there are 365 Gregorian days in a year. You've got one shot at 365 days. Is that an accurate statement? And the answer is no. It's been 2,000 years since Jesus was um, born and here on this earth. 2,000 times 365 is 730,000 opportunities for a rapture day because it could have happened at any point. They were looking for the rapture back then. There's external books that show that they were sitting out in the field waiting for Jesus to come back. Um, they're extra biblical, of course. So we attempt to stay in the Bible, but of course, most of us will go to other books to see historical records. Now, if you view a 364 day a year times the last 2,000 years, you have 728,000 chances of getting the day right. We're obviously all working on this, trying to give you our best guesstimate of when it could happen. But at the end of the day, nobody knows the exact day or hour at this point. And even if I said that here, the rapture is going to happen the night of October the 15th, just as it becomes a Sabbath. Now, this is a Chodesh. That means that this is the head of the month and a Sabbath. There are four of them every year that land on a Sabbath. Go all the way back up here. That's the Sabbath, the seventh day Sabbath that God rested. The first Chodesh that lands on a Sabbath is IR 1, April 16th. The second Chodesh that lands on a Sabbath is the day that Moses threw down the tablets, and Aaron died at 123 years old. It was Av 1, July 16th. And we come down here to the third Chodesh, Sabbath, Heshvan 1, is October the 16th. So we go forward through this. Remember that. Blow up the trumpet in the new month. What's the new month? It's the beginning of the Shemitah and the Jubilee cycles. That's the new month. That's the new month that we are to pay attention to each year. It is not Rosh Hashanah. It is not the head of the year. God moved that in Exodus 12, but it is where God began creation. He began creation on September the 11th, right here. Where's it at? Right here. He began. Oh, that's not it either. Hold on. Where'd it go? Oh, down here. Day one of creation began on September the 11th. You count it all the way through. God rested on Tishri 3. Jesus came here on December the 25th, and he was born on September the 30th, 2 weeks after the Feast of Trumpets. 14 days after the Feast of Trumpets, Jesus was born. 14 days after the head of the year on Rosh Hashanah, Jesus went to the cross. It's very symmetrical. It all fits perfectly. All right, now let me keep going here before this goes on too long. Blow up the trumpet in the new month in the time appointed. If you use that word month instead of moon, that means the rapture must happen. And I hear other channels saying it must happen on that moon, that sliver moon of trumpets. And I say no, it has to happen at some point in the new month, some point that I showed you between, hold on, let me look again here, between where trumpets began on Tishri 1, September the 15th, and the end of trumpets on the last day, Tishri 30, October the 15th. September the 15th to October the 15th, right there. September the 15th. That's 30 days. That month has 30 days in it. So it must happen at some point. If you limit yourself by stating, no, this is a moon, full moon, sliver moon, you limit yourself to 2 days that month. This opens up the entire month, and it even if you go in and type in last day, you're going to see that I will raise him up in the last day. The last day is spoken of quite a bit. Chodesh is translated correctly, and then of course the Pharisees, those guys that killed Jesus, they translated it new moon 20 times, but it's translated correctly 254 times. Torah, of course, is written by God. It's absolutely correct, and it's the people that we listen to, allowing them to translate it for us, and how we allow them to translate it for us. I wouldn't listen to these people. They didn't even know Jesus was coming. They completely missed it. The wise men that came to find Jesus, they knew. How did they know? They weren't using this calendar of this moon. They knew when he was coming. They did the math. It was exact. They knew exactly when he was coming. And they're doing the same thing again. Satan did a good job 400 BC when he implemented this moon concept, because he even got the Pharisees to write and say, well, in this case, I think Chodesh might mean moon because, we follow that sliver moon. So we're going to translate it to moon. No, it's not accurate. It is month. It's always month. This year, they will celebrate the Day of Atonement on October the 11th at sunset. They will celebrate Tabernacles on October the 16th. Remember, October the 16th or 15th is the last day of the month of trumpets. These are the dates and the numbers I wrote are at nightfall on the 2nd, becoming the 3rd, at nightfall on the 11th, becoming the 12th Feast of Tabernacles, at nightfall on the 16th, becoming, the 17th. So the Ark on the 8th day. This is October the 24th. They're saying the 8th day of Tabernacles, which, like I showed you, is actually inaccurate. October the 24th is the day that Noah went into the ark and sat there for 7 days, and the flood started on October the 31st, 7 days later. So, when will the new month be gone? You'll find this in Amos 8:5 in your King James Bible. When will the new month be gone, that we may sell corn and the Sabbath? This verse points to a specific day that not only has a Sabbath, but has a new month. I showed you the new month and the Sabbath land both on October the 16th. October the 16th is the day that they are viewing Tabernacles, the first day of Tabernacles. Remember last year, on the 8th day of Tabernacles, Israel was invaded on October the 7th. This is 17 days later that they're viewing the 8th day on October the 24th. 8 days. I mean, 18 days. How are they that far off? 17 days. How are they 17 days off? Does anybody say, nope, we were invaded on October the 7th, but we have to wait for the sliver moon to know exactly what day it is? We were actually invaded on October the 24th this year. We'll have to wait 17 days to celebrate or to recognize the anniversary of us being invaded because of the sliver moon. It's ridiculous. The moon has nothing to do the moon has everything to do with blood moons and and eclipses that are harbingers, warnings to the Jews that has nothing to do with beginning the month. Uh, all right, so new moon begun. Let's go on here. Month again. Now, also on October the 3rd, I want to throw this in here. This is the fourth Pentecost. You can go read this. RobertJMorgan.com has done an extensive study on the four different Pentecosts that we find spoken of in Acts, and it's an amazing study. I read through this whole thing. So you can go in there and read this. So some of these people are super smart. I mean, I was the CEO of my corporation for 20 years, and these people are absolutely brilliant. I was good with my numbers. My business was very successful. Um, you can be a truck driver from upstate New York, just a truck driver from upstate New York, and learn this stuff. You can be a pizza delivery person. You can sell pumpkins. Whatever you do, you don't have to be a genius to figure this stuff out. You just have to do a little research. You got to want to know the truth, the correct answer. That's all. All right. What's the last thing we're waiting for our rapture to occur? Everything so far we've seen in Luke. Luke speaking predominantly to the bride. The only thing we're waiting, there's more stuff if you're a tribulation saint, you'll need to go read in Mark. If you're left behind, go read in Mark. There's more signs that you're going to see. You're going to see this great falling away. You're going to see the man of sin be revealed. There's a bunch more stuff you can see, but you won't find that in Luke. Here, men's hearts failing them for fear for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. We are looking for the sea and the waves roaring. Now, while I would like to think that the waves and the seas roaring, which they are right now, because there's a massive, they're trying to get it to a Cat 6, on, the most powerful hurricane that the world's ever seen. But at this point, I think it's a Cat 4. And, but when it comes to the hurricane, if you actually look at it as a planet-wide event, it's not that you need a planet-wide event. If there were hurricanes going off all around the planet, I would say, yeah, okay, that's waves and seas roaring. A hurricane that's in the Gulf of Mexico coming, well, straight at me, uh, is not does not warrant anybody in China, Russia, anybody on that side of the planet. They're like, oh, well, that sucks to be them, but it's not affecting them. This isn't affecting anybody in California, Montana, Texas. They're looking at it. They're like, oh, pray for those people, and thank you for the prayers, by the way. But it's not affecting the whole world. Men's hearts are not failing them for fear after looking upon the waves and the seas roaring. So I think that it's going to be a massive earthquake, and the shelf that's underneath North America on the California line is going to come out, and it is going to move that water, and it's going to send a tsunami around the world. I think that's the event that we might be looking at right there. So yeah, I think that was from this morning. Yeah, 9:10 in the morning. Yeah, it's almost, it actually moved a little bit north. It's running right there into Tampa. I'm in the blue just south of Jacksonville there. And it looks like it's going to come straight up at us tonight. So that ought to be interesting. This website right here, logosapostolic.org. Go here. Uh, and they did an intense study on the word Chodesh, Hebrew word Chodesh, meaning month. It does not, never has, never will. They took liberties when they call it moon. That again was the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees that did this. The original text says Chodesh, and its actual translation is month. It's never moon. Wherever this word Chodesh appears in the Hebrew, the translation of it is highlighted in yellow. They highlighted it in yellow, and this is the translation. You can go into 1 Samuel 6:1. 1 Samuel 6:1, you can see the word. Everywhere that I found where they used, when they say new month, that's where they decided to translate it to um, moon. Wherever it says new month, what they're saying is it is the Sabbath, where Sabbath, well, you're supposed to go before God every Sabbath, which is 28 days. And you're supposed to go every new month, which is every 30, except for the four kaseh, the four hidden days, where there are 31 days. So you will wind up going before, there will be 4 times a year where the month will line up with the Sabbath. So everywhere these people, this website decided, well, let's put in new month to see if it makes sense. David said to Jonathan, behold, tomorrow is the new month. I should not fail to sit with the king at meat, but let me go. When David hid himself, so David hid himself in the field, and when the new month had come, the king sat down to eat meat. Like I said before, I don't just say this lightly. I don't just come up with stuff. I've done some serious research, and here's one of the websites and many, many others that are stating that the Pharisees took liberties with the original text, which says Chodesh. If the original text that is from the Word of God wanted it to be moon, they would have said Yarich, they would have said Selim. They would have God would not have used the word Chodesh. When he says new Chodesh, he's saying that there is a Sabbath on that day. So we know David hid himself on a day that was not only a new month, but it was a Sabbath. And like I showed you, that only happens 4 times a year. And we got one coming up here on uh, on October the 16th. There will be a Sabbath, and it will be a new month. Could this have been the day that David hid himself? I don't know. 2 Kings 4:23, and he said, why will you go to him today? It is neither the new month nor a Sabbath. which means to go to him, it needed to be a new month that fell on a Sabbath. And this particular moment here, it was not either one of them. It wasn't a Sabbath, and it was not a new month that fell on a Sabbath. All right. And to offer all burnt sacrifices to Yahweh in the Sabbaths in the new months on the set feasts. If you use the moon, your feasts are not set. I just showed you what happens if you use the moon when referring to Israel being invaded on October the 7th, which is the last day of Tabernacles. This year, the last day of Tabernacles is going to fall on October the 24th. They're wrong. They're categorically wrong. Satan did an amazing job at making everybody buy into this moon theory because nobody is paying attention to the correct date. But Satan thinks this is a salvational issue. Satan thinks that, if that you have to follow the moon, because if you don't, you're going to hell. There's only one salvational issue. Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. Period. All right. Saying, when will then? This is now Amos 8:5. In this passage, these people who are criminals, who want to rob everybody, can't rob anybody on this particular moment. They can't wait for the new month and that Sabbath to go away. They want it gone. Saying, when will the new month be gone that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances of deceit? The second we're gone, what are they going to do? They're going to raise the prices of everything. They're going to rob everybody. They don't care anymore. There's no restrainer anymore. They're going to do whatever they want to do. It's over with at that point. So try to go in and read those verses with that idea if you want to know when the things are. The timeline, of course, is available at www.endtime-studies.com, and you can get it. And this timeline is solid. It never moves, it never budges, it doesn't change. Neither does the day of equal parts. It never moves. It's always on March 16th and on September the 25th at night, September the 26th. It's always on that day. They were not to go outside and find a sliver moon, full moon, or any kind of a moon to know when trumpets was. They were to wait 10 days. They couldn't. It's the day that no man knows the day or the hour, because there's no day of equal parts on that day. That doesn't happen for another 10 days. So keep all that in mind. Again, I bring this to you. Are you saved by believing it? No, it won't save you at all. Um, is it something that is really cool to learn, and that we might actually go home at sunset on October the 15th? Maybe, it might be. We'll see. But I can promise you, it's not going to happen on the sliver moon, full moon, quarter moon. Um, None of those moons. It's going to happen because the moon is not in sync. It might have been in sync before, but it's not now. And year has always had. It never has had 360 days ever. That is something that they're trying to align with the 1,260 days. It simply there simply never was 360 days. You won't find it anywhere in the Bible. You won't find it anywhere except for people surmising that that's what it was. They're missing the 4 to Enoch. They found those Dead Sea Scrolls, and it verifies everything I'm saying. And there are some really large channels that have studied these Dead Sea Scrolls, and they have incorrectly called the head of the year on the equinox. We are not children of the night. Equinox means night of equal night or day of equal night. We're not children of the night. We're children of the day. Equilux means day of equal parts, equal day. So when Enoch said, use the day that is equalized to start your year, it is not equalized. The day is not equalized on the equinox. It just isn't. It's just that's the point where the sun crosses over the equator. But on that day, it is not equalized. And so when you use that day, you'll see that Jesus would have been conceived on December the 29th. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. We didn't celebrate Christmas for the last, and I know they're trying to say Ishtar. That's Satan again trying to get his hands into God's holy days. Every day that God made is holy, and but Christmas has always been December 25th. It's the day Jesus left his rightful place in heaven next to the Father and came down and wrapped himself in human flesh so that he could go to a cross and die for our sins. That happened on December the 25th. And 40 weeks later, to the very day, he was born on September the 30th. So, uh, trying to place Jesus' birthday during creation is tantamount to trying to say Jesus was created and he's not eternal God. He was not born at any point during creation. He's the creator. So he was not born at any point during creation. He was born on September 30th. Creation went from September the 11th to September the 17th, 18th. That was creation. That was it. And in that time, he created heaven, earth, the angels, humans, animals, fish, all of it. Jesus was not created. He was not a part of the creation story. He was born on Tabernacles. He came to tabernacle with us. And September 30th is Tabernacles. It always is, just like the anniversary of October 7th, with the last day, Shemini Atzeret's, the last day of Tabernacles. That day when they were invaded, God was sending a message. And this year, the anniversary of that Shemini Atzeret's, the last day of Tabernacles, did fall on October the 7th. But they will view it on, I think it was October the 24th, the day that Noah goes into the ark. So, all right, Repo Man 64. I hope I explained all that, clarified all that. If you have any questions, ask me. I'll answer them the best I can. I I should be fine tonight. I have a generator, so if the power goes out, I'll hook it up, and everything should be just fine. It's going to get a bit windy, but we'll see what happens, right? Chat with you all again later. Oh, go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody except the Lord in your heart. After you're saved, go tell somebody. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we will chat with you again later.